she saw the blatant violation of the rights of the tribals. She studied law, became a lawyer, people's lawyer, and fought for the cases of tribals. Government found him, and the companies also found her as an enemy. She was also accused as a Maoist, and linked her the famous Bhima Koregaon case. I hope some of you might have heard about it. I have no time to explain it. And she was in jail for 2 years. Fortunately, she got bail. Other 14 people are still in jail. They have not got bail. Tista Settleward, a woman whom the all-powerful Narendra Modi is afraid of. Why? She dug out many cases of victims, Muslims who were killed, murdered during the 2002 Gujarat riots. One example is Bilkis Banu. I don't know whether you have read about her. Bilkis Banu. She was gang raped by 14 rascals, 11 people. Her 3-year-old child was tossed and was killed. 14 members of her family were murdered. This is only one story. Ashish Ketan has written an excellent book, Undercover. If you read, you can imagine, you will see the horrible things that happened under the guidance of Modi and Amit Shah. So she took up their cases. 120 of them got justice, including Bilkis Banu. Modi is terribly afraid. So they filed false cases against her in different courts. In one case alone, the case consisted of 2,500 pages. Can you imagine the way the government is harassing and persecuting people, those who stand for justice? And she was arrested. 2 months she was in jail. She is a fighter. She got bail. She is continuing her fight for justice and truth. So these are some examples of, and 2 of them are not Christians. They are not religious. They are far better prophets than any one of us. I'm taken some quotes from the Bible, what Bible says about compassion. I am not reading them. Compassion does not mean doing charity. For us, compassion means charity. No. Compassion emanates from concern and commitment for human dignity. Why Jesus did miracles and healed people? People, those who are suffering from diseases like leprosy, they were considered as they became sick because of the curse of God. They were ostracized from the community. Therefore, Jesus wanted to restore their dignity. Therefore, he healed them. Jesus' concern was restoring the dignity of the persons. Compassion is that. I have already mentioned Stan Swami, Sudha, Bharadwaj, this. And second quality of the prophet is courage. Not afraid of the consequences, like suffering, humiliation, isolation, imprisonment, and even death. Father Paul Achandi showed you a quote from Father Stan Swami. Before he was arrested by NIA, National Investigation Agency, he gave this statement. What is happening to me is not something unique happening to me alone. It is a broader process taking place all over the country. We are all aware that prominent intellectuals, activists, writers, student leaders are put in jail because they have raised questions and expressed their dissent with the government. I am happy to be part of this process because I am not a silent spectator. Prophets cannot be silent spectators. We are all cowards. That is why we are all silent spectators. I am part of the game. I am happy to pay the price, whatever it may be, and he paid the price. And that is prophetic. Prophets are consistent. They don't change. They don't compromise, whatever may be the consequences. And I have an excellent dialogue from a movie called Dev. This movie is also wonderful. It has got English titles. It is also about Gujarat riots. How the bureaucracy, the police was misused to kill people. The movie shows. And at the end of the movie, Dev, an upright police officer, makes a statement. Death of a person takes place when he or she fails to oppose injustice, wherever she is it taking place. The issue is not whether I succeed or fail. The issue is not whether I live or I am killed. The issue is whether I perform my duty, whether I do it honestly. As a human being, do I fight for truth, for the victory of truth? Whether it is victory or failure, the duty of a warrior is to fight till the last breath, till the last drop of blood. Meaning of life is to always struggle for truth and justice. That is prophetism. Religious life is a call to become a radical disciple of Jesus. That is a prophet. There is a vast difference between a disciple and a devotee. A devotee is happy with adoring Jesus. That's why we are 24 hours, 40 hours, many hours of adoration, even night vigil. Whether Jesus dreamt of it, I don't know. Devotees, but prophets, they practice the values. Spirituality is related to attitudes, values, behavior, and relationships. And that's what we find in the Sermon on the Mount. Mahatma Gandhi fell in love with this part of the Gospels. And that is spirituality. What we do, many things, I don't know whether it is spirituality, whether it is leading to spirituality. Each one of us has to ask ourselves. Prophets were highly spiritual persons who denounced religiosity. Jesus never went to the temple to pray. I've read the gospel many times. I never found Jesus going to the temple to pray. Why did he go to the temple? He went to teach the people. People were available there. And once he went there to drive out all the rascals who were exploiting the people in the name of God and religion. Famous quotation from Amos, Prophet Amos, I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are stench to me. Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Though you bring choice fellowship offering, I will have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a ever-failing stream. Are we promoting religiosity or spirituality? This is a time we have to ask ourselves, if we are spiritual, will we fight on the shape of the cross and turning to the question of turning this side or that side during the Mass? If we are spiritual, will we build opulent churches and erect huge statues, while millions of people don't have a house of their own? Will we promote the miracle market in which innocent people are exploited? Will we instill guilt and exaggerated sin consciousness in the people? There are some preachers say you have to do penance not only for your sins, but also for your forefathers. What a stupidity. Jesus has said, the moment a person returns and decides not to repeat, he will be forgiven. God's forgiveness is unconditional. This is the most important teachings of Jesus, and people are preaching to do penance for the sins of the forefathers. I don't know how did they discover. Killing creativity, is it spirituality? Killing creativity and critical thinking through spreading blind faith and superstitions. Now exorcism, driving out devils, has become a big training. A lot of people are going for training for exorcism. I don't know how many devils are there. So even the highly educated, so-called educated people of Kerala have become most victims of superstition and blind faith. Have you heard about human sacrifice in the newspapers, fathers and sisters? Yeah, that highly educated people we claim. Are we promoting real religiosity or spirituality? This is a statement taken by a movie from Dharam movie. Pandit Chaturvedi says, religion is not mere rituals, but duty and responsibility. Rejecting discrimination is religion. Unity and harmony is religion. Humanity is religion. I come to the third part, challenges to religious as prophets today. The most dangerous challenge is Hindutva, an exclusive, divisive, discriminatory, toxic, and hateful ideology diametrically opposed to the values of the kingdom of God and the Indian Constitution. I have twice attended a speech given by Kurian Joseph. Tomorrow I think he is coming. He said, the values enshrined in the preamble of the Indian Constitution are nothing but the values of Jesus, kingdom of God, pluralist democracy, justice, equality, fraternity, individual dignity. What we see today, systematic destruction of the democratic institutions. I'm not explaining due to time. Blatant violation of human rights and fundamental rights, misuse of draconian laws like UAPA and sedition law, and investigation agencies like NIA, National Investigation Agency, CBI. Failure of the judiciary to decide on constitutional issues. Very often the judiciary, silent judiciary in a democracy, is expected to be the custodians of constitution and custodian of fundamental rights of the citizens. Media becoming a propaganda machine of the government, except one or two channels, one or two newspapers. Discrimination, demonization and persecution of minorities, especially the Muslims. I am living in the North India. If you speak to any Muslim, they are in terrible fear they are living. Any time they can be attacked, their property can be destroyed, police will not do anything. Police will not register a case. This is happening in all BJP-ruled states. Can you imagine if you are in that situation, what will be your feelings? But unfortunately in Kerala, attempts are made to divide between Muslims and Christians. Lot of false messages, fake messages are sent both to the Muslims and to the Christians. Who is sending them? Who is sending them? The IT cell of RSS. Don't take the word of God what comes in the WhatsApp. It is not the word of God. All are going to WhatsApp University to get degrees. Increasing divide between the rich and the poor, along with the rising unemployment and poverty. Today morning, somebody mentioned, I think Bishop mentioned about the division. 50% of the people of this country have only 5.3% of the wealth. 1% has got 33% of wealth. I think as a CMI member, I belong to that 1%. Increasing violence on women, Dalits and tribals. Now we need a paradigm shift to become prophets. What I'm not going to explain, just mention them. Shift from Old Testament worldview to the New Testament worldview of God, human person, and the world. Unfortunately, we are all going back to the Old Testament. God is a loving Father. Human beings are born with creativity and freedom. And world is something to be transformed, not to be rejected. Shift from devotee of Christ to disciple of Christ. Some people are sleeping. Please wake up. I am looking at you, all your eyes. I feel sympathy, empathy for you, because this is a time to, people are prone to sleep, but it is my responsibility to wake you up. I told you I will not allow you to sleep. Shift from the vow of obedience is a commitment to the prophetic function of Jesus. Don't think vow of obedience is obeying the laws. It is there. Any organization will have laws and rules and regulations. It's part of discipline. This has nothing to do with obedience. But obedience is to listen to God. And sometimes we have to disobey the authorities in order to listen to God. St. Paul also says that. Shift from service provider to animator and leader. Our role today is that. Not providing service, education, social work, health. Many better providers are come in the field. Father Bishop mentioned about it today. Shift from exclusive, Syro, Malabar, exclusive, to inclusive way of life and mission. Jesus view, broad, inclusive. Today's gospel, today morning, we listened to a Roman centurion coming and Jesus obliging him. Jesus did not exclude anybody in the name of religion, in the name of right. Why should we exclude small people? Shift from colonial idea of institutional expansion to the focus on producing lasting fruits. What influence we have? Catholic Church in India has got more than 55,000 educational institutions and with more than 5 crore students. We have reached to 10 crore parents. What are we doing? What influence we have? When Christian schools are attacked, nobody comes to stand with us. Reflect, what are we doing? So don't go after, we say we don't have vocation, we are going to Northeast here and there and start institutions. What is the use of these institutions? Shift from traditional style of evangelization, of preaching about Jesus, to living the values of Jesus. Today we spoke about witnessing presence. Mahatma Gandhi challenged the missionaries of his time, become roses with your fragrance and beauty, attract people, not by preaching, shouting prayers. Thank you very much. It is time, that's why I stopped.
Okay. Father Jacob, it was a very powerful and absorbing presentation. You spoke like a prophet. There's no doubt about that. And the idea that Jesus was primarily a prophet, and sometimes we fail to be prophets and we become silent spectators, and many more ideas that really touched our hearts. So dear Father Jacob, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. Now we move on to the second presentation by Sister Suma Therese SABS. Sister Suma Therese's areas of interest are theology, psychology, philosophy, spirituality, the English language and literature. She has acquired degrees such as BA in English, BA in theology, B.Ed in English, MA in English language and literature, and MPhil in English literature. She pursued her PhD in English literature from the University of Calicut on egoism to apotheosis, a study of Fulton J. Sheen's homiletics. She received the Best Paper Award at the IQAC National Seminar, Vimala College, Thrissur, in November 2010. Currently, she is an assistant professor in the Department of English at Vimala College, Thrissur. She has been the editor and writer of many articles, journals, and books. She has handled many positions like director, UGC Center for Women's Studies, editor, Sika newsletter, advisory board member, Suro Malabar Campus Ministry, Kakinada Kochi, AICF advisor, and coordinator of Sasnegam. So, dear Sister Suma, very cordially I welcome you for your presentation.
Respected delegates and participants on the dais and off the dais, very good afternoon to one and all. My paper is Women's Perspective on Prophetic Religious Call, a paradigm shift from traditional ritualistic practice to a contemplative prophetic spirituality. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. We, as consecrated men and women, being aware of our significant role amidst challenges, make an integral contribution to Indian society as all our apostolic fields act as centers of justice, catering to the least and the lost ones in the society. Educational institutions aim at transformation and empowerment. Healing ministry give healing touch to all. The existence of multiplicity of religions, castes, languages, ethnic identities, and even religious fundamentalism require us, the consecrated people, to have a mission to confront the social evils of economic disparity, gender injustice, and the sufferings imposed on humanity by all egoist systems and individuals in both government and private sectors. One among the primary missions of the church is to ensure social justice irrespective of status, gender, religion, and ideology. So long as the poor and the oppressed will exist in the society, the church will continue to exercise this task of denouncing injustice. The fight for social justice is an urgent task that is better taken care of by the church through its prophetic call. It is a constant and tireless battle to speak what is being seen and heard. Acts chapter 4, verse 20. We place our trust in God amidst the heavy and noisy scenario of the present time, but still reluctant to move out of the traditional comfort zones and continue the religious rituals as our routine. Lead our life in deep prayer, gain wisdom from the Word of God, express devotion to Mother Mary, and with a magnanimous heart, express deep concern for the well-being of others, particularly the poor and the marginalized, through social and charitable activities, never empathized with their actual life situations. Sometimes our priorities result in creating a dichotomy between theology and societal realities. We have concentrated most of our arts in evangelizing the regular faithful and have neglected those who are in need. That make many religious lose confidence in their own vocations in times of misery, and as a result, frustration, fatigue, monotony, disillusion, sadness, etc. enslave them. The Holy Father's constant call to the consecrated and to the church herself is to return to the gospel and to their original vocations. In the apostolic exhortation Evangelii Gaudium, he invites us to become, I quote, joyful messengers of challenging proposals, guardians of the goodness and beauty which shine forth in a life of fidelity to the gospel, unquote. As consecrated people, we have before us the challenge and the opportunity to make our way of life attractive by witnessing Jesus through a very different way of doing, working, and living. By its nature, attraction reawakens grace and empathy, imagination and fantasy, strength, enthusiasm, and hope. In order to restore all its attraction back to consecrated life, one must allow oneself to be drawn towards contagious joy, pleasing freshness, and vitalizing hope, so that the religious life is presented as meaningful in today's world as an alternative way of life to that offered by the world and by the dominant culture. Jesus said, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. In order to enable the church to review its strategy and thereby to re-establish human dignity as ordained by God, contemplative, prophetic spirituality is a necessity. As Thomas Merton says, what we need is to recognize the possibilities and challenges offered by the present moment and embrace them with courage, faith, and hope, unquote. A deep integration of contemplation and action, solitude and engagement with the world thus become the need of the day. Merton's integrative spirituality invites Indian consecrated men and women to a life of ongoing conversion, which recognize the need to move beyond the traditional practices of piety and penance, the security of life inside one's own religious order, and the preservation of the status quo of our religious institutions, and to enter into the concrete struggles of the suffering world in our context. Prophets are divinely inspired spiritual persons, commissioned by God to warn their contemporaries of the perils of wickedness. They echo the voice of God to humanity. They seek to awaken the conscience of a society that attempts to close its eyes to suffering and injustice. Spirituality is a process which leads to a life integration, self-transcendence, and commitment to a cause greater than the individual self, and it moves the spiritual seeker towards authenticity and self-transparency. It helps one to follow Jesus with enthusiasm and joy and find meaning in the desperate moments of life, and to commit oneself to a cause greater than individual self-preservation and well-being. We have the role models like Holy Mother Mary, Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Mother Teresa, and countless women religious who had empowered the society with their transforming power of prophetic witness. In conclusion, I just caught the title of the first chapter of Venerable Fulton J. Sheen's autobiography, Treasure in Clay. Everything depends on how you look at it. Let us lead a life of contemplative, prophetic spirituality with an attitude of gratitude. Points for discussion. As women religious, am I and the members of my congregation realize our strength and affirm our dignity as God's chosen women? What can be done to cure the wounds perpetrated by the women religious on the body of Christ? How can we instill conscious integration and transformation in one's life? What all measures to be adopted for the journey of self-transcendence? Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Suma, for your inspiring and motivating talk. She focused on women's prophetic role in the church, and she showed several examples. One point that struck me very much is this, that we concentrate on evangelizing the regular faithful and we neglect the needy and the needful. And so many other ideas she shared with us. It is a well prepared paper. So Sister Suma, once again, thank you very much. Now it is time for the third presentation by Reverend Father George Kannandanam, CMF. Father George Kannandanam is a clerician based in Bangalore. He has been involved with empowering the various social programs for the marginalized groups since for 34 years. He founded Hope Society in 1988 to work among alcoholics and drug addicts. He initiated support centers in Bengaluru and Belgaum to provide HIV-affected destitute persons care and rehabilitation. He established the project vision as a global eye donation movement as well as eye care campus for the rural poor in Tumkur district. He has been involved effectively with the disaster management programs for tsunami, earthquake in Nepal, and floods in Kerala. He set up Corona Care, Bangalore, and Mother's Meal to support people impacted with COVID. He has been living with the leprosy-affected persons at the Sumanhalli campus for 13 years. With a master's in social work and doctorate in sociology, Father George has written the book named The Empty Nest on the rehabilitation model for leprosy. He was conferred National Award from Government of India, which was received from President Abdul Kalam in 2003, Mother Teresa Award for Selfless Service in 2012, and Best Citizen of Bengaluru Award from Namma Bengaluru Foundation in 2013. And Dr. John Cheriath and Father Jose Alex Excellence in Social Work Awards in 2019. So, dear Father George, I welcome you for your presentation.
Good afternoon, friends. I think we need to give a round of applause to Father Jacob for his wonderful presentation at the age of 75, still roaring like a roaring lion. In fact, I grew up in my seminary days looking up to people like Father Jacob and admiring them and trying to learn from them. And thank you, Sister Suma Teres, for this presentation on giving life, which was the basic message of Jesus. Can you all stand up and give them a round of applause, please? Yeah? I think we should wake up, isn't it? Please, 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 get up and let's give them a big round of applause to Father Jacob and Suma for this great, great, wonderful presentation so far. Thank you. I'm just trying to prepare myself to get you to listen to me. Yeah, not only to appreciate them. Thank you so much for getting up. Well, you're all in Bangalore, and I know that you're all very busy provincials. Cinema കാണാൻ സമയമുണ്ടോ? ഉണ്ടോ? I know that busy provincials will find it difficult to watch a film in their own place. Yeah. So maybe now that you're in Bangalore, I recommend that you watch a movie. Shall I? In fact, Father also was recommending watching some movies. I think we social workers are very fond of movies. Provincials can also be interested in the movies. It's not moving. Can it move? Well. Um, point at system. It was working. Okay, can come there. So this is a movie which is also there in Malayalam, but this is basically a Kannada movie. And the name of the movie is Kantara. I don't know whether you heard about it. Kantara actually means forest. This is about the struggle of a group of people who were living with the products and depending on the forest, many of them living inside the forest, but by the stroke of the law, they are all made people who are unlawful occupants of the place. So they are asked to move out. So Kandara is actually showing us about the struggle of the people who are struggling for the rights of the land. And we know that over the years, India has witnessed several struggles of people who were driven out of their land. And the question what I want to ask you is, where is a church when these kind of struggles are happening? So you must watch this movie. Will give an insight into all the struggles that are happening. And the question that came to my mind the day before yesterday when I watched this movie was this: how much are we as a church with these kind of struggles when they happen across the country? So before coming into the details of this, I would like to also look at the micro context of the social reality that we are trying to work today. Where are we going to operate? When you're talking about justice, when we are talking about propheticism, well, we are operating in the world and the realities around the world. Which are some of those realities that we are seeing? Of course, a great influence of COVID, not just as disease, but as an economic crisis, which has sent millions of people into poverty. It said that about 300 million people went into poverty because of COVID, apart from the death that happened, the social changes that are happening, the industries that have failed, people with investment who lost the money. So it is not just a medical problem, but it was an economic crisis that is affecting the whole world. What about the war in Ukraine, which is sending more than 1/3 of people in Ukraine are already in Europe and other countries? So what is going to happen to these people? And the kind of impact this is going to have food supplies across the world, because we know that Russia and America are actually supplying grains for the whole world to many countries across the world, and the food supplies are getting affected. Food prices are going up. Ultimately, who is going to pay the price? It's a poor man who cannot afford to get a good meal a day. The crisis in Sri Lanka that we are seeing, well, our neighbor, and the kind of crisis that people are going through, political struggle, which is now also growing up as an economic crisis. What's happening in China, I don't know whether you're all aware of these developments in China. China is going through a huge drought. Again, China is one of those exporters of grain into the world, and this is going to further escalate the food crisis that the world is seeing. What's happening in Pakistan? The floods there, which has killed so many people, and also 1/10 of the country which is under the water. What is happening within India? The micro realities within the country that you're operating. Again, COVID, the floods that are happening, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, which is affecting the NGOs and very especially the church, as we know. The anti-conversion bill that is being impacted in various states in the country, political and social polarization that we are witnessing, and the global hunger index that our country is seeing. We know that India was placed at 109 in the global hunger index, which means that we have large number of people who are again suffering. Many of you who are working in Kerala, and what is happening in Kerala? The religious conflicts that we are seeing, the rising use of drugs and alcohol, which is taken up as a huge challenge among the young people. Disasters, floods has been happening every year for the last 3-4 years, and how that is affecting life in various ways. Youth leaving our shores. You don't find young people anymore settling out in our country. So this is going to have a lot of social, family implications, and also social implications for the future. So we are talking of justice and prophetic witness. within this context of what is happening globally in India and also in our state. So, what is our call? Our call is to do what Jesus did. Hope to the vulnerable, being in the side of the people who are oppressed, and giving life from death. So this is what we have seen. I think the morning sessions have given us a lot of foundational understanding to us about the scriptural as well as ecclesial and social teachings on this. So I don't want to go into all those aspects, but just to lay a foundation for what I'm talking. So 3 aspects of Jesus' life that we are called to participate. Jesus the king, Jesus the priest, and Jesus the prophet. We are very happy with Jesus the king. We are very happy with Jesus the priest. But are we really happy with Jesus the prophet? How much of value do we actually give to this aspect of the life of us as his disciples? And we know that Pope Francis has been trying to further take forward this aspect of the prophetic dimension of the church. And his teachings has been very clear. One of those very first sentences that he uttered and he taught to us was, "This is what I want, a poor church for the poor." But as Father was trying to tell us, well, if I'm a CMI, I belong to the first 1% of the country. I can also say that about the CMF, also as clinicians. I think many of us must accept the fact that we are all belonging to the top, people in the country economically when we look at it. So the first part of Pope's teaching may be difficult for us to really realize in the church, a poor church. At least can we try to realize the second part? Church for the poor. I don't think ever the church can be a poor church. We are not. Let us accept that reality. With all the institutions that we have, the power that we have, the personnel that we have, we are not poor. But at least the second part of his teaching, can this rich church be at least for the poor? Well, I think that is a challenge for us. In the poor and outcasts, we see Christ's face. By loving and helping the poor, we love and serve Christ. So this is a challenge actually for us. So understanding justice and prophetism as integral part of our mission. Many congregations do this mistake of thinking that social work is meant for a certain number of people. There are some people who are interested in that, so we let them to do what they like to do. But very often that is not seen as integral part of the mission. This is for many congregations an option which they are going to give to some people. But this is a very wrong way of understanding our mission. It is not a special call for some people. It is for all. We have changed it upside down. A church which is supposed to be completely committed to social realities and be a prophet, we are setting apart the responsibility to certain people, but that is not the right way to be looking at it. So we need a paradigm shift wherein bringing empowerment and compassion as the heart of our mission. We may be running a parish, doesn't matter. But our concerns are issues of justice and issues of the people. I may be running a school, doesn't matter. But through the school, am I able to take forward these gospel values? So this is the way that we need to have a rereading of the commitment that we have. So for this, what is required is we need to fall in love with the people who are in the peripheries. Very easily said and done, isn't it? Fall in love with the people who are in the peripheries. Love being with the poor and their struggles. Go to the human peripheries as a pastoral conversion. I'm involved in this kind of ministries for long. Our province, our congregation is committed to this kind of ministries. Can we have a shift now where we would be able to move into the peripheries? I can tell you from my own experience, my friends, the joy that we feel in getting involved with this kind of ministries, this is something which I think we all need to experience, which we need to help our members of our province and our congregation to experience. I'm a priest for the last 30 years. I have worked in all settings as far as the church's ministries are concerned, including in the parishes, Siramalaba parishes, and also worked as manager in a school. But for last 13 years, I'm living in a leprosy center. And I can tell you, there is nothing compared to the joy of this last 13 years of my life in a leprosy center compared to all the other ministries that I have done. So we can get our people to experience this joy when we change our focus and our shift to be with the people who are sick and suffering. Well, and the joy that comes from that experience, that is where the change can happen. So fall in love with the people who are there in the peripheries. So with this background, I'm here not to present a very organized paper, but I'm here just to share with you some scattered thoughts on this topic from what we have listened from morning. And I think the foundations theoretically and theologically has been already laid. I'm going to talk about some of those practical things what we can do. Because morning after the presentation, we are asking, what can I do? Well, I'm here to present you some of those things which I've been involved and what I have learned to do, what I would like to share with you, some of those things. Number one, 3 approaches that we can take in this whole work that we do. Then a need to move into a rights-based approach. What I'm doing is not just compassion and giving, as Father Jacob was saying. People have their right. Am I here to give them that right when that is deprived? Father also brought in already the story of Bilkis Bano, the lady whose experience we all heard from Father. When someone like this, and the people who are accused of it, who are sentenced of it, today are let free by the court. Did the church react to it? I haven't seen the spokesperson of the CBCI talking about it. I haven't heard the CRI speaking about it. I haven't heard the Kerala Church speaking about it. I haven't heard the SMRC speaking about it. Do we speak about this? Where is our voice when things like this happen? Don't we have the responsibility to respond to situations like this? That brings me to the question of asking you also, do we have a spokesperson? Are we afraid? Are we afraid to be with the people who are there? We are very secure and institutionalized people, unable and afraid to take on social issues through a social action. I'm very sorry to make this statement, but I think I must make this. We are a very secure and institutionalized people, unable and afraid to take on social issues through a social action. So that makes us to be silent spectators most of the time. Morning, this question was raised, well, Virinyam problem is happening, what actually we could have done? Can I suggest you something? I wish this meeting happened in Virinyam. Your presence would have given so much of strength and courage and hope to the people who are struggling there. You are a very powerful body, very powerful body. Just your presence there for one day with all these people would have made a huge difference in the struggle what they're making. Maybe you can't change everything, but your being with them is going to give them hope and is going to give them courage. Well, these are creative ways in which we need to really look up to in our responses. We already heard about Stan Sami. When Stan Sami was, do I say killed? We can also say it killed. What was the response? What was the response of big bodies like this in the church when one among us itself is killed? Forget about Bilkis Bano. Were we as a church sufficiently able to express our protest, our anguish, our anger about it? and come to the streets. You're very courageous to come out to the streets for many other things. Shamelessly. Do we have the courage when important, unjust things like this happen in our country? Are we able to do this? Well, this calls for a lot of courage. Do we react even when one of our fellow members are being killed? So the first approach is the rights-based approach. The second approach I want to talk to you is about the empowerment approach. This girl and this family that you see in the screen, well, it's a grandmother, a mother, and a little girl. This grandmother came with her daughter, and her daughter, who was just about 5 years old, when they were seen on the streets of Bangalore begging. The grandmother and the mother, both of them were leprosy-affected people. Our people found them begging on the road. The beggars colony people arrested them, brought to the beggars colony. They were brought to the Sumanahali society where we work for leprosy-affected people. And then when we came to our place, we could have just kept them like this. We started a school in our campus to empower these children from the background of leprosy HIV. This girl studied there. She passed her 10th in our school. We helped her to go to the PU, finish her BCom. Today, she's an employee with TCS, working in Calcutta. And this mother and grandmother, they were still staying in our campus. After 6 months of she getting the job, she called me, Vijayalakshmi. She said, Father, I want to take my mother and my grandmother to be with me in Calcutta. I said, you just got a job. You must be living in a small place. She said, doesn't matter. I want to take care of my mother and my grandmother. She came to Bangalore, took mother and the grandmother, both of them with visible leprosy signs, on a flight back to Calcutta, and they're living together there. Are we empowering people to be what they can? Not just keeping them, but empowering them to reach the heights of life where they can. Last month we had a beautiful program in our Sumanahali society where we had a program of a get-together of all those people who were rehabilitated by us. We had about 800 people. 500 leprosy cured people today work as government employees with the government of Karnataka. Some of them get 90,000 rupees salary. And they were all beggars on the road some time of their life. Today, their lives are transformed. So empowerment approach to development is another aspect that we can go through. We have, and the number 3 is community-based approach. How do we involve the community in what we are doing? Are we exclusively running our own place, or do we have a space to involve people who are from outside also to be part of our mission? We have this beautiful model of Akasha Parval. I'm sure you're all very familiar with that. Who runs their centers? Committed lay people, most of them. And how do they run their centers? They have no FC number. They don't get any foreign funding. They mobilize people in their locality. And with the support of the people, physically getting involved, people coming to make food for them and giving them money, taking care of them. It's a beautiful model of involving the community in developmental issues is something what our Akasha Prava has brought us to our mind. So how do we move into a community-based approach? People-oriented program, community-oriented mission is also the challenge for us. I was recently in Wayanad, where I came across Father Teragam. He runs this beautiful program called Wind Farm, which he recently started. I'm sure some of you also are coming from Wayanad, I'm sure must be knowing him. He started recently this program called Wind Farm because they all cultivate a lot of things. They're all great farmers in Wayanad, but they get very little money. So he has started this movement called Wind Farm, through which he is coordinating with all the farmers and buy their products, assuring them a certain amount of price for them. And he has started a company that will turn, say for example, banana into a value-added product, and he will sell it. And then every farmer can buy a share in this company by giving 1,000 rupees. So whatever money the company is earning, part of that also will go back to the people who are giving the money and becoming part of this movement. So community-based approaches of development. I'm sure these are issues what we find in various places across the country, wherever you work, but very often we are not daring enough to involve into those real issues that confront people. People's needs are their daily bread. People's concerns are their income. And that is the only thing with which they can educate their child, with which they can go to the hospital, they can eat. But we are not interested, or we are not daring enough to get involved with some of those issues which can actually help them to live a decent life. Whereas we want all of them to come to the church, and we want all of them to make offerings, and we are only using people very often without empowering them to live better lives. So some of those areas that need our intervention, when you look at actionable things that we can do all as people involved in the society, sheltering the homeless. How many number of people are, how many families are living without a shelter in our country? So many of them. So many of them. Do we have a solution for this? Are we, as provinces, willing to spare some land or buildings for the homeless people? The church congregations have a benefit of having bought bigger lands at cheap rates at some time. We are benefiting from them. Today, can we spare 10% of our landed property only to help people to put up some shelters on their houses? I was so happy to see some of those news in the WhatsApp about after the floods that many of our congregations in Kerala have done that. Hats off to you. I salute those congregations who came forward and did this. I've gone myself and seen some of the houses that have been built. Beautiful examples. But I think by and large, these are all, very small actions done by very few people. But as a church, largely, we are failing in these areas where we could have actually contributed and made a huge difference in the lives of those people. Can we, each institution, build a house each year? I don't know how many institutions we have. Father was talking about 26,000 members that we have. I'm just trying to assume by 265 provinces that you have as members, and assume that about 100 people are there in every province. You have 26,000, religious. And assume that you have about 3 people in a community. You nearly have about 5,000 communities you should have. Can every community every year build one house? 5,000 houses the SMRC members can actually create for our people. Is it not possible? I heard recently about some sister doing a housing challenge in Kerala. Yeah, so 150 houses built by just one sister. House challenge. I wish many of our people could actually do this. Are our members not able to do this? Do we encourage them to do this? Yeah? You tell all your 3 minutes more. My God, I thought I had more. So this some of those challenges which we can take up. Okay, the homeless. These are the houses we are going to hand over tomorrow in Wayanad, built for these 3 beautiful girls who lost their parents. Responding to hunger, we have got 800 million people in the world who are going hungry every day. 300 million of them in India. What are we doing for them? Each institution feed 10 families every month. Is that possible? Just a 500 rupees, one food kit, if it can be given by every community to the people who are widows, elderly people who have disabilities. How many thousands of people actually are we able to reach out to every year? Organize a food summit. Can the SMRC organize a food summit in the country for the Christians? A food summit. Bring together all those people who are interested to work on the hunger issue and get together people who are able to sponsor us, help us. We can make a huge difference in this country. A food summit that we can organize. Modify, this is the letter I have written to Pope Francis, because recently it was the World Food Day. On the 16th of this month, I wrote a letter to Pope Francis telling him to change the Our Father prayer. This is my suggestion. Give us this day our daily bread. This is what we are praying every day. I propose this to be changed to, give us this day a chance to feed the hungry. Is it not meaningful? Now tell me, you are praying this every day. Is there any day you don't have food in your house? And the millions of Christians across the world who are praying this, making this prayer every day, do any one of them have a shortage of food in their house? So today the need is not to pray for our food, but give me the chance today to feed the hungry. Can we change our Father prayer? Well, I think it's a meaningful thing if we can actually do that. A small program which we started when COVID started was called Mother's Meal. I lost my mother to COVID, and we started this program called Mother's Meal. At one point of time, we were feeding about 3,000 families every month in about 7 countries. That's a picture of those who are there in Africa that we are feeding with us. Differently able people are there everywhere. We have 40 million people with disabilities in our country, and we have got 55,000 schools, as Father said. Can every school of the Catholic Church have one section where we will take care of 100 people with disabilities? We can take care of 55 lakh disabled people across the country. A huge challenge which many parents are living. They don't know how to take care of their children. This is something the church can get involved with. Can we start a commission for differently abled under the SMRC? Recently, when the synod was happening, I went to the synod. I met Cardinal Alan Churi. I gave him a proposal that the Sri Malabar Church must start a commission for differently abled. Bangalore was the first archdiocese in the whole country to start a commission for differently able, for which I was a secretary for many years. Now, this is something which has to be done because there is a need for us to get involved in this area. Care of the terminally ill people, destitute people. Can each community take care of one destitute person in the country? People from leprosy, HIV, disabilities, disasters. Well, these are things that can be done. These are the inmates on our center. Disaster management, another area. Wherever disasters happen, run there. Every congregation has to get involved with disaster management work. These are the houses that we built in Nepal when the earthquake happened there. 800,000 houses fell down in Nepal after the earthquake. These are the boats that we give away in tsunami. Every boat will have the Somali name on that. Some changes environmentally that needs to be happened to move into a more comprehensive church. Father, I'll take 5 more minutes. Okay, we have time till 4 o'clock anyway. That's what we decided. We have time till 4 o'clock. We said 20 minutes we'll set apart for the discussion to the end. Okay, so some changes in environment that needs to happen to move into a more comprehensive, church. Number one, let us think about doing what is urgent, timely, and effective. I know that we all as congregations have different charisms. One of the charisms that we have as clericians, we are taught is this: wherever you go, do what is urgent, timely, and effective. I think this gives us a very broad, spectrum of ministries that we can choose from any place that we are able to go. Are we ready for changes in our charism? Because congregations started so many years ago, centuries ago. Today, are we able to reinvent the congregations according to what is required today? How does the leadership support people who come up with this kind of prophetic messages? Do we grow them? Do we allow them to grow? Well, if the church actually supported many of those people who were passionately wanting to change the society, and they were prophets themselves, we would have had many more changes in society. But our congregation, the church, doesn't have the history of actually supporting those people who come up with such kind of ideas. What personal accompaniment or support you give to leaders who work in the social sector? What is our attitude towards them? Are we a self-serving church? This is an analysis that all of us must be able to do. Whenever corporates make the analysis, they say only 10% of your total income can be spent on your administration. Also for NGOs. If we as a church do this analysis, what percentage of the incomes that come to our provinces are spent on the maintenance of our members? And the reversal is, what percentage of the money, resources of our congregations set apart for the work with the marginalized? Supposed to be 90%, But I think many of us will find even difficult to identify even 10% of money that is spent in many congregations specifically for this. Where are our best brains? Where do the most talented people in our congregations are working? Do we set them apart for social issues like this? Where are your best institutions? They're not in the social sector. We take pride in building up huge institutions. We are willing to spend any amount of money to build, a super modern institution. But are they really benefiting the people who are the marginalized in the society? Networking is another model that we need to work with. Can we look up to, trans-religion programs? Can we look up to trans-congregational programs? Can we look up to trans-province programs? Well, we are all very, very happy to work within our own cocoons and not really willing to network people who are outside. I live in a center where we live. Claretians are there, Salesians are there, Norbertines are there, Montfort fathers are there, SJT sisters are there, the Montfort sisters are there, FSI sisters. We are about 8 congregations working in one campus, all under one program, and the program belongs to the Archdiocese of Bangalore. Interesting, isn't it? But we together are today able to take care of over 1,000 people in the same campus. All, we call it as a social hub. Just because we are able to network with more congregations, we are able to work together. Branding is what many of us are very concerned. If I work with other people, where is the name of my province, name of my congregation? My branding is more important than what I actually do. If we forget our brand, we can actually do much more than we think. Critical analysis and decision making the chapters. Many of our chapters, I also gone to some of the chapters. What we discuss in many chapters are not really about social issues. Do we talk about the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, social issues, prophetic things that we need to do? We need to make an analysis when people are hungry and dying. What are we discussing in our assemblies? Can we focus on more realistic issues? Critical assessment experts, if you can't do this, get experts from outside and do an analysis. We talk about OD, organizational development. We talk about various techniques today which can help us to develop our congregations, our projects. So get help from outside. Ask these questions. Does this mission help the people in the peripheries? Every time you open a mission, ask this question. Does this mission help poor and the marginalized? Every time a person you send for specialization, ask this question. Does this study help the people who are struggling to survive? If it does not, it is not worth. That's what Gandhiji also said, no? Every time you make a decision, just ask this question. Is this decision going to help the poor men in your country? If it doesn't help him, don't go ahead with that. Yeah, 2 minutes, I'm going to. Critical assessment of our schools. I think since many of you are running in the schools, I think I should ask you this. A bit of analysis about our schools. Start schools where they can't get good education. I'm going to put 4 critical questions that you should ask about the schools. Number 1, start schools only where they can't get good education, not for my commercial interest. Number 2, give education to the poor at affordable rates. Can the poor come to our schools? Number 3, if for the rich, put in social responsibility as a main agenda of that institution. If you are running a rich institution, that must be to train leaders for tomorrow who will take care of the poor tomorrow. Can the monies from the institution be channelized for ministries for the peripheries? Otherwise, our schools are not justified. I quit this. I know that I should ask, liberate the province and the provincials. Some provincials think that only they get the word of God, only they get inspirations, only they are led by the Holy Spirit. Yeah. Holy Spirit only speaks to us. Forget about it. Listen to prophetic messages within your provinces and people. Last slide of mine, 2 slides of mine. What prevents today? One of those things that prevents today the Surah Malabar Church from being prophetic, the ongoing fight about the liturgy. We are on the way to a suicide as a church. As a church. Laughing stock among the Christians. A group that has lost a sense of direction among the society. Young people getting disillusioned about the church and faith. All our good works are getting obliterated because of this one issue. As someone not involved in it, I can only say it is very sad and it is very distressing. We cannot remain silent spectators when the whole church is getting affected. Prophetic role of this forum as the most powerful and relevant group of leaders in the church, apart from the synod, I think this forum has a great prophetic role to do something. Can this forum come out with a statement or recommendation? Can we make some recommendations that might be helpful for solving these issues? Can we declare a moratorium for some years for this issue and settle in peace and focus on much wider, bigger issues that are happening outside? Can we have a core team appointed to deal with it? Well, I don't know. But being silent is not going to solve the problem. We need to find solutions.
Father,
Yeah.
we need some
I think
time
we all
need
want to
time
go
for
to heaven.
discussion.
Yeah.
We need time for discussion.
We all
because
go
we're
to
20
heaven.
minutes only,
So the
okay.
simple question is, are we giving food to the hungry? Let us build our provinces around Luke 4 and Matthew 25. Thank you.
So, dear Father George, your talk was really a motivating and heart-touching one. You highlighted the micro issues within the country and some of your ideas. We should fall in love with the poor, and justice and prophetic role are the heart of our mission. We have become very secure and institutionalized, and we are unable to take on social issues and many more other ideas. Really inspired us, and we know that you are very much associated with the poor people, the lepers and others, and you spoke from your experience, from your convictions. You really motivated us. So let us also give him, let us also stand and give him a thunder applause. Okay, please stand. Now, we have some time for a discussion, and you can ask questions, clarifications to any of the three presenters. We have about 20 minutes maximum, so we don't need to waste any time. So if you have some clarifications and questions, please do ask.
Need not be questions, you can put forward your views also. So all of us can become resource persons in that way.
This is to Father Jacob. When you're mentioning about the challenges to religious as prophets in the context of India today, you started saying about the Hindutva as the major challenge. Is it purposely that you have not mentioned anything about our internal challenges? Maybe something like Father George was highlighting towards the end, or any other major challenges which are inside the church, and you have highlighted only on the political dimension. So just a clarification I want.
I can speak 1 hour about the internal challenges. But I didn't do that. My focus was on the external challenges. That's why I purposely didn't take up that particular aspect. Okay? Do you want to hear something about internal challenges?
I thought maybe because this is an August gathering, something which are pertinent could be helpful, I thought.
One of the internal challenges is in this August assembly, most of the women are sitting without asking any questions. Empowering women, especially women of the Syro Malabar Church congregations. You have to change your mindset. We are not subservient to the bishops. Church is the people of God. Church is not bishops. Church, the Vatican II has clearly mentioned, church is the people of God. Our commitment is to the people of God. And bishops are supposed to be good shepherds, not paid servants. Jesus spoke very clearly 2000 years ago. The leadership can be degenerated into the level of paid servants. So biggest challenge, one. Second, leadership. We don't have the leaders with character and competence. Both we need. We have leaders very character, very with integrity, like Bishop Murikan, but he has gone for sannyasa. No? We have bishops very talented, I don't mention the names, but no character. Yeah, these are truth. This is truth. All of bishops are human beings. I am a human being. I also can have weaknesses. Bishops also can have weaknesses. So we need to change the training. We have to invest not in the buildings, but in the human persons. Their capacity to communicate. Their capacity to deal with all sections of society. This is what is biggest challenge, human resource development. And we are all investing in cement and iron. I'm very sorry to tell you. The greatest achievement of in my life, missionary life, I never built a building. I tried to build people. Thank you.
It's not a question, but maybe a policy statement. We had already decided earlier that we would stop sending out the YouTube while we start the discussions. So discussions are closed door.